Buying insurance when it doesn't make sense.
Modern baseball theory holds that sacrifice bunts are rarely a good idea. The game is dominated by launch angles and home runs, to the point that giving up an out and advancing a runner from first to second is rarely the proper play. When you hand outs to the other team, you cap your scoring upside. Anchoring to previously held opinions. Fantasy sports are essentially a game of opinions, your best guess against my best guess. The best fantasy managers are going to have plenty of takes. You compete for a few years, take down a trophy or two, you get some confidence and even some ego. Being paralyzed by fear. Paradox of choice is a fascinating concept, the idea that otherwise smart people can be overwhelmed by alternatives. It's not uncommon for a fantasy manager to tell me they prefer a roster of minimal depth over a roster of fantastic depth because they aren't forced to make difficult choices every week. Not doing queue maintenance during the draft. I generally don't touch the preset rankings in any draft applet, because I want to know what most of my opponents are looking at. But that doesn't mean I rest back in my chair and scroll through tweets and emails between picks. I'm constantly working on some kind of list, be it an off-applet list I'm maintaining, or adding and arranging player names in my online queue. Ignoring ADP. It's common to hear established fantasy players zealously proclaiming their disdain for average draft position, noting how they draft to the beat of their own drummer. And hey, I get it. At some point, you have to go get the players you believe in. But you at least want to have a general idea of what slot those players might command in a free market. Eschewing a news lap on draft day. Most fantasy football drafts will take place in August, and that's a hotbed of NFL news. Injuries, depth chart adjustments, trades, perhaps even suspensions. Stuff is going to happen. And with that, it's imperative you take a news lap the day of your draft, just to make sure you're up on the latest and greatest NFL news. Getting tripped up by the schedule. The NFL schedule is such a big deal. The league somehow creates a buzzy event of its release and reveal. It's a little funny when you think about it. We already knew the games, just not the sequencing, but it's another case of the NFL flexing its muscles as the dominant sports league in North America. Not adjusting for the time of year. The earlier you're drafting, the less important it is to draft a kicker or defense. You can add that stuff later. Why not get an additional high upside running back pick on your roster? This well-known strategy has a converse, of course. If you're drafting right before the season, that's when you might as well fill that K&D ST spot.